Welcome back, everybody. 16 minutes after the hour now, President Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy this morning ahead of Pope Francis's funeral. Zelenskyy took to X to thank the president for the meeting after the two talked about creating a lasting peace and an unconditional ceasefire. However, this comes as the Kremlin continues to strike civilian areas in Ukraine, all but ignoring the president's calls to stop it. And now Mr. Trump is calling out Mr. Putin on Truth Social, accusing the Russian leader of not wanting to end the war and just tapping him along. The president also blasting the Obama and Biden administrations for letting Russia seize Crimea and for failing to bring peace in the meantime. However, some members of the Obama White House don't want to admit that this is their fault.
You were Secretary of State when Russia annexed Crimea, and I want to ask you.
But when they stated
they stated,
not, we did not allow them to annex it,
right?
And we stood up against it and called it against international law. Yeah, they said it, but that doesn't. Under international law, that does not make it theirs.
Oh, it does not make it theirs, but they still took it, and you didn't take it back, and you didn't apply enough pressure to affect a change, and that's why it's still obviously Russian territory. Molly, first to you. President Zelenskyy is saying, I'm thankful we had a chance to chat. Will this make a difference? That picture's iconic, by the way.
It is. It is fascinating. When you think about where we were, what was it, a little more than 50 days ago at the White House and the big explosion that happened there, and this intimate conversation taking part on this, enormously historic, eventful day in the, St. Peter's Basilica, eye to eye. What a difference this could make. This was a quote from Sky News. Professor Father Francisco Giordano told Sky News the meeting is being called Pope Francis's miracle by members of the clergy there. So there is a lot of hope being placed on the interaction, this fresh interaction between these two men. And the president also now expressing some frustration, I would say mildly, with Putin. So this could be a major turning point.
Nita.
Yeah, that was, it looked to be a candid photo, too. So amazing, right? I just want to give a shout out to Chris Jansing from MSNBC. I think that was Chris Jansing asking the question to the former Secretary of State, Kerry. Good job, Chris. Way to ask a tough question. We criticize MSNBC a lot, but she really tried to put a tough question to him, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, Chris is a pro's pro. I had a good chance to work with her for a long time over at NBC, and I'll say this about Chris Jansing. Like her or don't like her, she is an honest broker. And you can see that in that question right there, which I really appreciated as well. Jason, let me ask you about the canals. This is an interesting story, too. The president not just focused on Ukraine, a lot of people talking about that. He's also trying to expand America's influence at both the Panama and Suez canals. Posting on Truth Social just about an hour ago, quote, American ships, both military and commercial, should be allowed to travel free of charge through the Panama and Suez canals. I'm not surprised at this ask. Are you surprised?
No, look, Donald Trump's approach is, look, we bring the strength, we bring the Army, we bring the Navy, we bring the Air Force, we bring all the resources to the table so that commerce can travel, so that our military ships can travel there. So why should we have limited access? If you're going to provide and open up those waterways and make sure that the world is able to trade and move freely, then we should get the free access to the base. You and I were talking about this ahead of time. Yeah. If you're the police, you're going to get some access there. You're not going to pay some toll along the way. There's no way that Donald Trump wants to pay that money. And he's right. And by the way, let's make sure we all understand. It was under President Bush where Russia came in and took 25% of Georgia. It was under President Obama they came in and took Crimea. It was under President Biden. Guess what the common denominator is? It didn't happen under Donald Trump because they knew he meant business and he wouldn't let it happen. So I think Donald Trump is doing an incredible job of bringing these parties together and saying, all right, we both quit it. Let's end this and stop the killing because it's getting worse, not better. And we can solve this. But it's going to take the strength of a President Trump to actually get it done.
I'm going to ask you all a yes/no question, maybe a comment. Does this get resolved this year? Yay or nay? Talking about Russia and Ukraine, does it get resolved?
Yes.
Molly? Little Boston skepticism.
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly difficult situation, and it's already been really more than the 3 years. It's been going back well beyond that to the 8 years before that. So I don't know. I don't know that history can resolve it swiftly.
Yeah, I sense a frustration by President Trump, and I think that frustration will lead to more ramifications for each side that they don't want to see. And I think Donald Trump will end it and will happen before the end of the year. I think it'll happen before the fall.
I think
I'm with you, Jason.
Yeah, I think it'll happen too. But I think it's going to take a while to push Zelenskyy over the edge to make this deal. Because, listen, you're talking about losing part of your country. And nobody wants to see that. It would be like if they said, oh, well, we can end it if you let us take part of Florida. You know, no, we're not. So this is going to take a while, but I suspect you're right. This will probably end this year. Still ahead, president in a major blue city, residents that is, trying to stop a homeless shelter from being built.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.